So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Carrie Karvetsky from, hopefully I said that right, Carrie,
Yes.
from Karvetsky from Idealware. And Idealware is a nonprofit that provides thoroughly researched, impartial, and accessible resources about technology and software to nonprofits. Tyler Cummins from Idealware is also online with us. So without continuing to talk, take it away, Carrie.
Great. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. And I'll give you a little secret and a tip for a webinar with Carrie. I love interaction. I love your questions. I will be asking you guys for some input at certain points for your feedback and brainstorming. So I think the more we turn this into a discussion and a dialogue, the better learning for everyone. So I'll start there. This is a picture of me looking sideways, and I am one of the Idealware expert trainers. I'm actually an independent consultant, and Idealware works with a number of us trainers in various areas, and I focus on online communications and social media. And Rick and I were just speaking before everyone got on the line that I actually have a soft spot for you guys. I used to work at a nonprofit called Scenic Hudson in the Hudson Valley, working on Hudson River issues, and so that's sort of that was my first nonprofit job. So I have over 20 years of communications experience, and I love online communications of all flavors: fundraising, advocacy, communications, and education. So I'm hoping to bring that expertise and to help you guys up your game in social media and get a better footing for it for your various organizations. So that's a little bit about me. You heard Rick talk a little bit about Idealware. You guys know a little bit about them. I highly suggest you get on their email list and that you follow them in various social media channels. They provide excellent information for nonprofits, really cut through the confusion and focus on nonprofits. So they're a great and amazing resource. They have lots of great guides too. One of the ones that I highly recommend always is the social media policy workbook. So help you work through various different things in creating a social media and crafting a social media policy. So that's Idealware. So let's talk about us. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today, and then we'll get right into it. And just to let you know, I will be monitoring the chat box, and so I'll look over it on occasion. If you have a question, a comment, or a piece of feedback for me, please feel free to put it in that chat box, and I will try to get to it as close to where you mentioned it and where I talked about the subject as possible. So what we're going to cover today is this. First, we'll just do a super quick definition of social media. Most of you know what it is already, but we'll just do a quick definition. Then we're going to dive into goals and how to connect that with what you're already doing in other parts of your organization, deciding which tools to use, and by tools we mean the different social media networks, discovering and identifying paths to deeper engagement, and then putting that into practice, building your community, and then what to do when you hang up the phone with us today and go on to applying this information into your daily work. So that is what we're going to cover today. And so we'll just launch right into our content. And again, I'm monitoring that questions box, so if anything comes up you'd like me to stop and repeat or ask me to expand upon, please feel free to put that in the chat box. So social media, how do we define this at Idealware? This is the words, images, messages, video. This is things like blogs and Facebook, just exactly what you think it is, YouTube, Instagram. And what makes social media different is this, that it is not a one-way street. It is about conversations. It's not even a two-way street. It is a multi-way street. It's where you and your supporters can speak to each other, and your supporters then can speak to each other and other different types of audiences. And so this is different than advertising. It's not like direct mail. This is multi-directional. and it's about leveraging the fact that this has a networked effect, that things can go two-way, and that it has the capacity to expand, unlike your direct mail, unlike if you do any kind of advertising. This has the capacity to just jump different networks, jump into different conversations, and bleed into different places that we never could even imagined a number of years ago. And a lot of that conversations happens even without, and obviously without you even participating. So jumping into those multi-directional conversations and the network effect is really taking advantage of learning about the advantages of social media. And it's a little bit of an adjustment for a lot of different organizations, a lot of different people who are not used to having that multi-directional network type of relationship with media. So your challenge, and this is where I'm going to ask you a question now, is to think like a social media user. And so the question I have for you guys right now is, what did you post on social media? You're all hopefully in some measure a social media user at this point, that there's some network that you actually use personally. So in the chat box, tell me, what did you post, share, or do on social media in the past week or so? And while you chime in with those, I will share what I have done. So there's been some political things going on on my feed. I posted a picture of, I attended a gala over the weekend for my local foundation. And so I posted a picture on Instagram of that. And on Twitter, I engaged with some folks who, some professionals about some questions about how they do certain things. So I did some professional development. So those are things that I did as a social media user, as a person, not just as Carrie Karvetsky, a consultant and a trainer. So what did you post on anything? Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or not even post? Did you comment or like on anything? So I see that one person did talk about Earth Day activities on Facebook, so things that you're involved in personally. Let's see, photos from our cleanup on our Facebook page. That's what Rebecca wrote in. And I see some other of you are typing in. So Anjali asked a question, or Rick asked a question. Anjali and Rick are sharing a computer. Are OR websites considered social media forums? So I would say if you have a blog or you have a discussion group, so yes, that can be considered social media. Joanne writes that she posted on Facebook and LinkedIn about a grant application. Let's see, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please forgive me. So let's see, it says Dealey has posted a photo album from an event in Denver on urban farming. And I see Barb is typing something in now. So you see that people are mixing things up. They're putting their spin on, they're doing some professional, some personal things. So this is a very different environment than your normal corporate or your normal organizational communications. So people are posting personal stuff like kid photos, and they're marketing themselves like you guys are. They're having fun. They're socializing, they're catching up, they're connecting. They're really not there to say, I wonder what my favorite nonprofit is doing. You as a nonprofit professional may be using your social network in that way, but think about all the other people who you're engaging with. They're posting the kids' graduation. It's for those of you in the Catholic faith, there's communion happening right around now. There was spring break. There's soccer tournaments and baseball. There's getting new cats, or I ran a marathon. So all these things, this is different. This is a different environment for you to try to communicate in. So let's see, let's move on to the next one. So these are just examples of what we all just talked about: kittens, babies, cocktails, family stuff. So your job is to break through this social interaction or fit into it. How do you provide value but be in this social space, understanding that people don't go to Facebook to say, I'm wondering what my favorite organization or my favorite brand is doing right now. They're there for very different reasons. And this is different than in your inbox, your email. People are very task-oriented in email, but they're very more social. And they're doing this for a lot of personal reasons when they're going to various social networks. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to make sure that when you're using these networks that you're engaging them in a social way, a truly social way, not thinking like a marketer, not being stiff and corporate and one way, but embracing the nature of social and then participating in those conversations. And this is not the easiest concept to grasp, and the more you're on social, the more you get it, and the more you practice. It's like riding a bicycle. There's no way from taking a webinar that you can learn how to ride a bicycle. You have to get on the bike and learn your balance and learn your coordination and strength yourself. And so social media is very much like learning how to ride a bike. There is just no way you can do it through books and all the study. You have to actually practice it to get it. This is actually one of the slides that was extra. So if you see this in slides that you have, just make sure that we're going to skip over this one because it's just an extra slide. We will get to tools after we define our goals. So just, again, I'm here to answer any questions, any additional thoughts that you have about that, but I think things will become clearer as we proceed on through the webinar. So defining your goals, and I am a soccer coach, so I like that we have this soccer ball and soccer net and goal image here. So why do we define our goals? And no one should leave this webinar without this just one thing, and that is to be thinking about how your goals apply to social media, or how social media applies to your goals. Having goals, starting with goals and a purpose on social media, not just exploration, not just because everybody else is on it, I need to be on it too, but using social media with goals and a purpose will make it easier for you to weigh your options and make decisions. I understand one of the questions coming in was, how do you, as the one-person shop or two-person shop or a professional with limited resources and social media isn't your entire job, how do you weigh your options and decide? Well, setting goals will help you separate the wheat from the chaff, decide how to spend your time on social media. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into goals and planning. And so there's some nice background research I wanted to share with you about planning and social media. First, you do have to kick the tires, and I always recommend with social media that you be a person first. So when you go on a network, you are Carrie Karvetsky or Joan or Tyler or Barb, and that you sort of get your feet wet and the lay of the land as a person before you become a brand. I think it's so hard to jump into a network and be the brand first without understanding what people are doing there, who's there, and how they're doing it. So going back to plan, so once you dip your toes a little bit, if you can, into a social network, trying to develop a purpose and a plan, asking why are you using this network and tying it to specific goals will help you achieve success and not just feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're there because everyone else is. Organizations that achieve social media success often cite a strategy and a plan as the most important factor in their success. So not staff, not money, but having some kind of clear vision for what they're doing and what they expect out of social media. So we'll move next into setting actionable goals here, and I want you guys, as I go through the next slide, to weigh in with what are actual goals in your nonprofit organization. They don't have to be social media goals. That's what we're here to merge and to get you to the point we need to get you to. But what is a goal in your organization? And be specific about it. So maybe it's daylighting a river, or it's preventing a development, or improving the water quality, or getting more people to come to your events or to advocate for change, building your volunteer base. Put that in the chat box as I go through some of the next slides, because I like to have you guys share that with each other and then see how we can use social media to tie in with those and advance those goals. So the three things that I always ask before I dive into a new social network are: who's there? Are my people there? The people who I want to reach. What are they doing, and what am I doing? So, for example, by considering Twitter, I want to know, and we will go through each one of the bunch of the networks in the next section. Who's on Twitter? What's the demographic of people, and what types of things are they discussing? And then what's my purpose? What's my goal there? And I may not come to that goal or that understanding until I am on the network for a little while, but eventually that's where you should be going. So there are different organizations that use, let me just go back there. There are different organizations that actually use different goals for different media. Humane Society of the United States uses certain of their media more for customer service. So that's Twitter. People come to them and ask them questions about more of a customer service role in Twitter. And on Facebook, they use it a little more differently, more to raise awareness about some of their advocacy actions. Not that there's not overlap between the two, but they have more of a distinct purpose on different social networks. Many people look at Instagram to raise their brand awareness or to encourage folks to identify with their brand, so having volunteers post selfies, for example. But it's not going to be good for some other purposes. So we will go through a bunch of the networks so you can understand some of the demographics and what people do on them. So I'm wondering if any of you, as I go through this, use this method of establishing goals. And I do see that there are some folks who are typing for their goals. So keep typing. I do want to share those. If you use this S.M.A.R.T framework for establishing goals, S.M.A.R.T being specific, so we would like to raise the number of volunteers in our volunteer advocacy network or a volunteer network by 50%, or we want to have more cleanups. We want to increase the number of cleanups by 10%. That is measurable, like 10% more cleanups. That is actually attainable. That it's actually relevant to your organization, and this is where social media really comes in, because you're not on Twitter to be awesome at Twitter. You're on Twitter to change the world, to make it a better place, to make your community better, to make the world a better place. So making sure that you're not just measuring things or not just going for the biggest number of likes, and then it has absolutely no bearing on the fact that is your water cleaner, or do you have a healthier community. Also, goals are timely or time-based, so that they have some kind of accountability there for when you are going to achieve them, whether that is in a month or a year or 5 years, making sure that those goals have some kind of time base. Heading over to the questions box, and I do see a chat box, and I do see that folks have weighed in, so I'm going to read those out loud. I'm not sure, Ryan or Rick, if everyone can see the chat, everyone can see each other's chats, or they can't, and I can with it. They can?
Yeah, everyone will see the comments that are posted there.
Okay, that's great. So I don't have to read everything word for word out loud. So cool. So I like that. There's other webinar software that doesn't allow that. So that's cool. So let's see. We have for goals, brand our organization, build our community of supporters, repurpose areas in underserved communities. Let's see, educate residents. So how could you use SMART goals to understand whether or not you're achieving that? Let's see, we have build brand name recognition. So this seems to be coming up, and actually social media is pretty good at doing some brand recognition. Cool. So we have a bunch of great answers. You guys are thinking along the right lines. So our goal today with this webinar is to make sure that that education, that brand awareness, that you're tying that into social media, that social media doesn't exist as this other thing that you're worrying about, that it's to serve your mission. It's not to be amazing at social media. So the upshot of that section is making sure that you're looking at your existing goals, whatever they are, that you had your brand organization, you're making those goals SMART and that you're tying social media into those. So how can social media make your, improve your brand recognition or educate residents? How would you measure that? Maybe that's a quiz. People have used that, or how people voted, or you're maybe more subjective in the conversations that you have with people, or the feedback that you're getting on your page. Recruiting volunteers, those types of things are things that you can definitely do on social media. What social media, Deanna asked me to make sure I address this question about what social media is actually not good for, and I want to go back to this. And so I want you to make sure that we're in this whole discussion of social media, we're talking about this for 90 minutes, that you are not forgetting about your email list, because what social media is not very good at is fundraising and things that are conversion-based. So when you have to sign up a volunteer to do something, has anyone ever put out a Facebook event? You made a Facebook event and lots of people said, yeah, I'm coming, and then most of those people never showed up to the event. Because Facebook events is more like an idea. It's more like a marketing tool than it is a conversion or an event management tool. Likewise, for fundraising, social media is, with a couple of limited exceptions, not so good at fundraising, at getting people to raise money. The exceptions might be when there are emergencies. So I do work with Amnesty International, and they have a humanitarian crisis or a human rights crisis. That's when unfortunately, their best fundraisers come out, and in social and in email. Social media is good at raising awareness about giving an immediate reaction to news, so it's quite timely, particularly Twitter. It is good at brand building, and it's good at newsjacking. I'm wondering if anybody knows, has tried that. So there's something like climate change. So a hurricane comes through and it wrecks your entire water system, and you've been talking about reinforcing the water system or rerouting rivers or something that's relevant to your business. And that's the time to dive into that conversation. That's newsjacking, taking advantage of a particular piece of news and tying it into your mission. And social media is good at driving traffic to your website or to pages and places that you want people to go to. So consider, again, to go over that list, raising awareness, brand building, driving traffic, newsjacking, immediate reactions. That's what social media is good for. But what it's not so hot at is things that have to convert people to do something. So that's why you want to use social and get people on your email list. In most social networks, you don't own that relationship. You don't, so if you're playing in Facebook sandbox, you're playing in Twitter sandbox, they can shut you down and then you wouldn't have any names. So your email list is more your core supporters. People convert better to fundraising, advocacy, and volunteering when you have their email address. It is the core piece of information that you need to get from people. So that's a little bit about what social media is good at and not so good at. Again, I am reading the questions here. And so if you have any reactions to that, if you have any further questions to that, please put it in the chat box, and I'll get to that as soon as I can. So moving next into deciding which tools to use. And by tools, we are referring to our social networks. So let's take a walk through of the various social networks and go back to those three questions I talked about. Who's on them? What are they doing? And then the last question for you is, what's my purpose there? How can I fit into that and make my mission and make my work relevant on that social network? So The first one we always have to start off with, because it is the largest, is Facebook. And a little bit about Facebook. Has mostly women on it. So that's about 60% women, 40% men. Women drive conversation on Facebook and sharing. If you look at your Facebook insights, if you have a page, most likely you will see a larger portion of women who are liking your page. Your analytics for Facebook will tell you these things. And Facebook used to be a little bit easier of a place to be for organizations, and they've been making reach decline. So your page is reaching fewer people. And the big asterisk there is that unless you have amazing content. So the organizations that are content factories that are used to pumping out infographics, videos, visuals, and really good content and opportunities seem to be being rewarded by Facebook's change in its algorithm for pages. But everyone else, if you're not posting very often, if you're posting content that's not getting a lot of reaction from your network, then your reach is going to continue to decline. And that's just the unfortunate, I don't make those rules, so don't shoot the messenger. That's just the unfortunate state of Facebook at the moment. So we're going to talk about some other networks now. But what are people doing on Facebook? They're sharing and commenting on things. So they're talking about politics, a ton of visuals. Visuals and videos do quite well in sharing what people tend to share and like. You'll see in pages that are popular that those things, and particularly infographics. And by infographics, I mean a lot of times a picture with some words on top of it gets more engagement, gets more likes and comments and shares than if you were to just type out that information and post a picture. So having that little infographic, and that shouldn't be a very hard thing for a lot of you to do. PicMonkey is a free tool that you can use to, if you aren't a Photoshop person, and I am not, that you can use to add text to photographs. So inspirational, provocative, interesting types of quotes layered onto photographs do very well on Facebook. So knowing that's the environment will help you judge whether or not you want to put a lot of energy into that. It can reap amazing rewards. People who are always that are good at Facebook report that they're still getting a ton of traffic of any of their channels from Facebook. But there admittedly are a lot of organizations that struggle. So if you're not really pumping out a ton of good content, Facebook might be a bit of a struggle for you. Moving next to Twitter, and I see that that the River Network is on both Facebook and Twitter when I went to your webpage. Twitter is 50-50 men and women, so it's not a predominance of one gender or another. It skews younger than Facebook, and it also skews a little bit more urban. So for those of you working in more urban environments, and I think that's supposed to be most of you, Twitter may be a really good tool for you to use to reach out to various folks. Twitter I'd say its primary feature, or the thing that defines it differently than Facebook, is it's so timely. It's the pulse of humanity. It's the instant peanut gallery. So no matter what is happening in the world, the reaction on Twitter will probably be first. And people are using it increasingly as a second screen. So by that I mean if they're watching television or a movie, television in particular, they also have another device in front of them like a mobile phone or a tablet, and they are commenting on the television that they watch, from sports to fiction television shows, etc. So a question came in from CC about how do you build Twitter followers? There's a number of different ways that you can build Twitter followers, but one of the big ones is find other people to follow. If you go on Twitter and you can connect your email list to Twitter. So there's a who to follow area on Twitter. Go there and make sure that you're connecting an email list with Twitter, and that's your low-lying fruit. Those are the people you already know. And make sure that you use Twitter's search function because you can find people who tweet in your area. So definitely check out Twitter Advanced Search and find people to follow who are relevant for you, and then start having conversation with them. That's going to start building your followers. So good question on Twitter. So moving next into LinkedIn, I think that a lot of you are probably on LinkedIn, and as water professionals or urban development professionals, you should be all over it. It's only professional, all professional all the time. There's not a lot of socializing unless it has to do with business here. And I know you guys, Water Network also has a group. Groups are a little bit difficult to gain traction on, but I think LinkedIn, it's big value, and it's actually slightly dominated by men, higher education level there, and a little bit higher of an age, which goes, you would think that's what would happen with a professional type of network versus a social network. And it's great for connecting with other like-minded professionals, your peers, and to find industry news of what's going on and to engage with people in that way. I think groups are becoming a little bit harder, and they're sort of de-emphasizing them a little bit, but those people connections, you should all be connecting with each other, with other water professionals, and then you can be looking at different news that is posted on LinkedIn that really starts to hone in on from your professional network. So LinkedIn is pretty easy to get followers on once you connect your email address with it. Next tool is blogs, and we had this question come up. Do they count as social? And yes, absolutely, particularly when it's yours. And here's the great thing about a blog. You own that content. So everything about that blog that you have is yours. So Facebook can't take it away. Twitter can't take it away. So your followers, your commenters, your content is yours. So it is a great way to generate content for your other networks as well, to establish your authority and expertise, to recognize volunteers and write more deeply about some of your projects. So this is a blog has almost become the new newsletter. So a question came in actually from Joanne about LinkedIn, our last one. And does LinkedIn have preferences for updates when it shares with your network? So when you make an update with them, I don't think that you can make groups and parse it with public and private. So if you're going to make an update, it's to your network. And you can choose to make your presence private or public, but the point of being on a social network is to make it public and to engage with the public, especially why you're here to promote your organization's work. So another question came in, can a blog be linked to a website? Absolutely. There should be a link to a link right on your homepage that the fact that you have a blog. So people look for that. They want to, especially a reporter would, or a peer, a potential partner, someone who's checking out, might even be a potential high-level donor or sponsor. So that blog should be visible on the homepage of your website. Again, it doesn't have to be hosted on the homepage of your website. They could link off to something, but absolutely connect it to your website and then connect it to your social media networks. So Twitter and Facebook allow you to auto-post whenever you auto-post your blog post, and that is actually a good. They tend to get more traffic, more retweets, etc. In those networks when those blogs are published. So it's great for you to be publishing content there, and then for reaching out. So moving next to content sharing sites, and by content sharing sites, you're referring to YouTube and to Flickr. I'm not sure if any of you guys use Flickr, but YouTube is one of the second largest search engine in the world. So consider that when people are sitting looking at like water quality in my city, YouTube videos are going to be featured prominently in the search results. And who owns YouTube? Google. So you know most people use Google, and YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So you guys probably have great stories and content to tell. And it doesn't have to be professionally produced. It doesn't have to be super long. You can do a lot of good in 30-second video. And in fact, the shorter the video, the easier it will be for you to produce and put more of them up. You could be interviewing volunteers, staff members, being on site for things. Why do people love you? Why are they volunteering? What's special about it? You know, how are you trying to make the world better? You can do that in 30 seconds. Of course, you could produce nice videos and do longer form things on YouTube as well, but telling your story visually and through video is a very powerful way of connecting with potential supporters. The next one is Google Plus and Tumblr, and I'd love to see a show of hands if any of you are on the line, are on these networks, because my guess is I doubt it, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. So is anybody on Google Plus, Tumblr? Raise your hand and tell me what your experience is. As far as the demographics of Google Plus and Twitter, let's do Google Plus first. It is very heavily men, 2/3 men. It is very heavily weighted towards science, technology, and photography. So if any of those are striking a chord with you guys, Google Plus is a good tool for that. Also, their Hangout is a video conferencing feature that's quite outstanding. My example that I always like to use, I have two examples for Google Plus that you might want to follow. They're not exactly in your subject area, but Atlanta Zoo has been using Google Plus, and it has over 1 million Google Plus followers, has been using Google Plus for several years to connect with other like-minded small zoos and aquariums across the country. Once a week, they meet on Google Plus for a certain length of time, and they discuss ways to cross-promote and connect their zoos. So they often share content, and they might have themed weeks, what's working, etc. That sounds an awful lot like you guys, that you're in a network and you're looking to connect with each other and learn from each other and help promote and amplify your good work. So the other example I like to use who's really good at Hangouts is Food Revolution, and they pull experts together. And in an interview, it could be 15, 20 minutes interview. They have like a little roundtable discussion, and then it gets automatically posted to YouTube. So it might be something, if those types of activities sound like a good idea for you to explore a little more. On Tumblr, different stories, very heavily kid-focused, very heavily visually focused, sort of micro blogs. So people do them for advocacy purposes, and they're very, again, visually focused. Sometimes it's humor, sometimes it's sort of a documenting type of a blog, so you might have a Tumblr, but it's almost a derivative of your main blog. So I would say that's not something you would probably do right off the bat without doing some of the other social networks, but it is very fun. I see a few of you guys have talked about Google Plus. Our River Network friends on it, but I've never figured out what the heck I should be using it for. Do yourself a favor and make sure you search for, especially if the science community is big on there, is very vibrant on Google Plus. So I'm sure you can connect with different science groups there and other similar groups. And it also has a big international following. So those are just things to think about, and then those are things to think about as you're approaching your strategy there. Dealey writes, I'm on G+, but not very active, mostly using it to discover things. I have a similar reaction to that, where I always discover really good content. So it's less about your social connections, and it's more about people centering around the content. So that's Google Plus and Tumblr. Moving on to a very different direction with Pinterest and Instagram. Raise your hand if you're on either one of these, and how you've used it or what you think. So Pinterest, heavily women, 2/3 women, higher education. And the reason why they're on Pinterest is this is a collection of things. This is lifestyle. This is about shopping. This is about the way I want my life to be. So what plays well for nonprofits in there is inspiration does. So quotes and inspiring quotes, inspiring news, things like, so if you're advocating that people buy, like don't buy water in a don't buy bottled water, bottle your own water, and you're advocating particular products to use for water, then that would be a good use of Pinterest. So with Pinterest, you make boards of things, of collections of things, and you can collect blog articles. I collect political humor and put it out there. I collect campaign examples for different nonprofits. So I collect how do nonprofits do volunteer. How do they do, Valentine's Day campaigns. So I use it to make collections of things. So, and again, women are very dominant on that network. So if that's an audience you're trying to reach and influence, that might be something for you. Instagram is actually owned by Facebook, and it is for exploring. It's all photographs. It's good for brand awareness, very youth-focused. And so I call Instagram my happy network. I go on Instagram for a hit of, I want to see pretty things. I want to see flowers. I want to see beautiful landscapes. National Geographic is one to follow. They always have photos that take my breath away. And a lot of selfies. So a lot of people expressing their selfness on Instagram, and it's really youth-oriented. A lot of teens and young adults are using Facebook less and using things like Instagram more. So if that's a network that you want to reach, then Instagram might be for you. The one thing to understand about Instagram, what it isn't good at, is driving action, because there's no hyperlink. So if you can put a link in a picture, that's great, but no one can click on a link and then get through to your website or your volunteer form or your donation form. So it's really about brand awareness. But it is a place that people are happy and active to be on. Particular volunteers, this might be a good strategy for establishing hashtags for your cleanups and then having people post their pictures of cleanups with hashtags. A couple of comments came in. Let's see. Personally on Instagram and also manage an Instagram account. Good way to share an image or two, short video of events. I think that's a great, because they have very short, 10 or 15-second videos. Really, that's all you need to do some branding for a volunteer who's standing in front of a river cleanup to get their, why they love doing this. You really just need 15 seconds. And obviously a younger, millennials and younger demographic. So any questions about these, or any network that I didn't cover that you want to talk about? Put it in the chat box and I'll see if I can answer your question. I'm not on every single network, but I do dabble in many of them. There's SlideShare for slideshows, and let me see what else there is. You guys, I doubt many of you are on Flickr, or maybe if you have an old presence on Flickr. And there's lots of different niche and splinter social networks coming out. Snapchat and WhatsApp, very team focused for those. But let's move on to our next section, and I am monitoring the chat box if anything comes through the transom. So let's talk about getting to your path to deeper engagement. Actually, Joanne just asked a question. Is Instagram more time sensitive than Pinterest? Is Instagram linkable from Facebook? So the first question is, Instagram is more time-based than Pinterest. Pinterest has the benefit of Pinterest, it has a very long shelf life for things. So people rediscover pins I've pinned 2-3 years ago, and they sort of flare up and get shared again. So things don't have as much expiration as ideas. Instagram is way more timely and time sensitive, and it is absolutely linkable to Facebook, so you can cross-post when you do something on Instagram to Facebook and get that additional engagement. So how do we move from like to love? This is where I always love to do my reminder about it's not just about the love on Facebook, it's the love for your organization, and one of the paths, one of the goals to deeper engagement is making sure you get people on your email list. So always keep that in mind as you're using social to get people engaged on those networks, but to also use them as list building opportunities. So everyone has probably seen some form of this, a pyramid of engagement, and it's not always as simple and neat as this. Often it's more chaotic, and often depending on the action or what you want the person to do, say fundraising versus advocacy versus volunteering, people might be on different parts of this engagement ladder, and they may go back and forth. But let me just explain what we have here from the bottom up. So at the bottom we have attracting followers, and it's based, while I always choose quality over quantity, at some point it is a game of numbers it's hard to drive conversation when there's an empty room. So you do need the followers, the people who like you, etc. So your numbers should always be going up if you want to be increasing your success or pushing your game ahead on social media. So attracting followers is always an important top of mind activity on social. Listening, moving up, listening and responding. This is when, if you're lucky enough to have people post on your own page with questions, or hey, I love you, or here's a picture from my event, that's a great level of engagement that you didn't even have to manage. It's a powerful opportunity. Moving up from there is to get engagement with interaction with your stuff. So what is this? This is your comments. This is your liking. This is your sharing of stuff. And this is really what most people think of as engagement on social media. But let's not forget that top of the pyramid and going back to our goals of taking action. So you want more volunteers, you want more advocates, you want more people to stop that bill or stop that bad development or promote a more environmentally friendly vision of your community. That's your really end goal. So using social media to get people to take action is the ultimate. So that's outside social. This is why you have goals. So before I get to this one, the don't shout, I'm going to go back to this, and I do see a question came in that I think I should answer now. So Maria asks, what is the best way to organize multiple social media sites? For example, it would be nice to be able to post to several at once or see them all at once. There are a number of tools that allow you to do various levels of that depending on how much time you have, how many networks you're doing. Hootsuite is a popular one, and I'm going to type these into the box. Hootsuite, Sprout Social, and Buffer app. These all allow you, these are all tools. There's a certain level of free with Hootsuite and Buffer app. Sprout Social is, I'd say, on the top end of those three choices. Buffer app being in the bottom, easiest, cheapest, simplest. Hootsuite being in the middle, Sprout Social. Every one of these networks allow you to post to multiple networks at the same time and schedule those posts at the same time. Some of them, once you step above Buffer, it's going to, and you go to Hootsuite, it's going to allow you to monitor and look at those social networks broken down into different columns and sort of like a dashboard thing. And Sprout Social kicks it up a notch further. So it's going to nudge you to do certain things in certain networks, like, hey, engage with this person on Twitter because they're an influencer. Hey, this content is performing better than other content in your network. You might want to boost it a little bit. And it says a slightly better reporting than Hootsuite. It is more expensive. Both Hootsuite and Sprout Social have nonprofit pricing, so before you go dive into either one of those, you get free trials with them. make sure that if you do decide you love this tool and you want to use it more, that you actually ask for the nonprofit discount. So those are tools that let you do that with various social networks. Some of those social networks don't fit into any of these tools, and you're just going to have to do it manually. And some social networks, going back to you choosing the right tool, Facebook and Twitter require more care and feeding. Pinterest and Instagram require a little less feeding. Google Plus a little less feeding. There's just more competition. So the bigger the network and the more noise on it, the more you're going to have to spend time on it. Question that always comes up right after I say that, how much time do I need to spend on social media every week? And I'd say the average or what you want if you're going to get any measure of success, after you've set up your profiles and when you're getting to a maintenance mode, it's a minimum of 2 hours per week on any social network, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you're going to be on. So once you start adding those up, you see how they add up, and they're going to eat into your time in other places. So hopefully those three tools give you an array of good, better, and best tools, and they again range from free to less than $50 a month. But if Sprout Social does give a discount, and it's about $50 a month normally, so they do get, I forgot what the nonprofit discount is. I think it's 20%. All right, so deeper engagement. We'll re-engage here with our deeper engagement. Just a reminder what we talked about at the beginning of the session, which is that social is not one way, that it's multiple ways, and that people are on social not to just sit there and listen to you talk 100% about you all the time, and to be talked about in an institution, talked to in an institutional way. You need to be building community at every one of these levels. From the bottom up, that was followers. The red level is followers. So being this, and if you wanted to sort of reinterpret these levels, the bottom level is the being there level. That you're on this network, people can find you and connect with you in a base level. Moving up into the orange level is being open, that you're actually responsive when people ask questions, that they feel heard on your page or in your social profile. Moving up to the green level is that you're building a community, that you're being interesting, helpful, and engaging, offering them a chance to join into the conversation, join into your mission. It's not a, hey, we do this, now give us money or write a letter. They have the opportunity to join in. And at the top, the pinnacle is where your goals come in. It's being effective. It's connecting them to something great. So cleaner water, a better way of life, a place for my children to play, access to the river, recreational opportunities for everyone in our community, from children to seniors, etc. So let's just dive into what value means. We talk a lot about that. And I'd actually like to throw this question back at you. Now that you've heard about 2/3 of the webinar and you're getting a sense of connecting your goals with your social media presence, that you're about strategy, about purpose, what could be a way that you provide value on a social network? So if you could, everyone who's listening now, share that in the chat box. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are as we're learning together. So these are just different models of value about can somebody volunteer online? That's a way to provide, this is called virtual volunteering. So maybe someone can write a blog post for you, or they could help out by promoting, working with you on your Twitter presence, or taking photographs to put on your Instagram account. Or can this be a way, as someone mentioned earlier, on a blog, is it a place for a discussion? Is it a place where people can connect with each other and then have more deeper discussions than just a Facebook post, a fleeting Facebook post? What information can you share that people need? So there's a town meeting that's very important to someone, or that the EPA just passed a new rule, or there's an open comment period on a particular bill or a policy change that you need to make your voice heard on. How can you be available to them to ask questions? Well, when is that going to be built, or wasn't there funds earmarked for a park, and where is it now, and where are we in the process? You're the expert in what you do, so you can provide that value to your constituents, your supporters, your donors, your volunteers, your community partners, etc. So again, how can you provide value? What is a very specific way that you can provide value? So Kellen, you get a big thumbs up because you were the first to reply. I'm so happy when people reply. So we can share information about where to get and how to install a rain barrel. So that is a great way of providing value to people. So I know local orgs do that. I wanted to share a local org that near me had done that, and I got my rain barrel. You can be using YouTube to do a video of how to use the rain barrel, or take pictures at the event for the rain barrel sale, or giving tips on your page or on your blog of getting the most out of your rain barrel, etc. So those are great examples of how to provide additional value for folks who are your fans and your supporters and your potential supporters. So thank you for sharing that. And here is something that is always difficult and always something that an organization has to figure out themselves. I can't make a formula for you. If you see a formula online about how to balance what constituents want and what I want, just throw it out the window and find out yourself. You have goals internally. You have things that you need to accomplish in your nonprofit. You have a mission. You have to balance that with what people are actually doing on social. That they're not there necessarily to engage with your mission. They're there to show pictures of their children. But there's a way to balance you and them, and by them also, not only what constituents want, but what other organizations are doing. You can often reshare content, the best content from other organizations on your page, and achieve some success. I'm going to put a tool in here. Not Sprout Social, Action Sprout, Inspire. Google that, and you will go to a tool that lets you put a Facebook page. It's a Facebook tool, but it's phenomenal. That allows you to stick any Facebook page in there and show content that is performing above the average of that page. So content that's actually getting shared more, etc. And that gives you, so you're looking at the best stuff. And you can reshare that best stuff and bask in that glow on your own page on occasion. So you don't have to make every piece of content you ever put on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else. You can, and this is a strategy, a big strategy that the bigger orgs use in Facebook, and you can use it for free here, and it doesn't take that much time. So again, balancing value, what constituents want, what you want, is something you're going to have to feel to yourself. But 100%, one way or another, is a recipe for failure. If you're never promoting yourself, why are you there? You're not really connecting your social presence to goals. And if you only talk about you, then you're shouting at people and you're going to burn them out. So just an adjunct to that about using social media is about being a real person, a responsive human being. Don't be shallow, institutional, fake, because people know when you're doing that. And so make sure that when you're on there, you're and knowing again why people are on social, that they're there to socialize, that you should be fitting in with that method of communication with them, and that you should be, again, a real person, responsive, doing things like this. What does this mean in real life? This means you do posts like, hey, we heard you, and based on your feedback or based on a request you made, we're doing X, Y, Z. That's how you practice that in public. So when people post stuff on your page, you respond to them, you post, it generates new content ideas for you. Every question that you get from a supporter on social is like a gift. It's like a content idea for you for a blog post, for a newsletter idea, for a next social media post, to bake into sometimes even your fundraising. So let's get even more practical with this about practically practicing engagement. And I dare you to say that 10 times fast. So we start at the base level, that red level of getting people in the door. And just like Helen mentioned about getting information about a rain barrel, offering exciting things to people. So maybe you want to use a particular channel, I always pick on Facebook, to offer something special to people. Maybe it's, first 100 people to respond, get, if you're doing, maybe you're doing a fundraising concert or you're doing a talk with an expert's coming to town and you're sponsoring a forum, you get your questions answered. Mom's Clean Air Force, which is a spin-off from Environmental Defense Fund, did a great Twitter chat with the EPA administrator, and they asked people to register in advance and for a chance to make sure that their question got asked by the administrator. So that was something. And they got dozens of people participating, almost 100 people participating in this Twitter chat with the EPA administrator, and got their content widely out there and had this conversation in public. So offering exciting things that they can't get in other places will help get people in the door. Other ways of getting people in the door, building up that red level, that attracting followers, making sure that on occasion you ask constituents to invite their friends, that you do some back channel work on asking influencers to promote your page. And by influencers, you know who they are. I'll say in my local community, I'm an influencer. So people ask me, can you post something about this in a back channel way? They instant message me or they email me and say, can you help me promote this? And that's a perfectly legitimate, and if I agree with it, I'm fine with helping an organization promote something. So there was a local nonprofit who asked me to promote something for them. I was more than happy to do it. It was a great cause. Other ways, making sure people know that you're on social by putting it in your emails, in your personal emails, and your email blast, that it's on your website, business cards, email signature. Some folks do like drives, and that goes to the do a campaign with an incentive. A like drive is something where you say, hey, if we get to the next level of followers, there's a donor who might donate $1 for everybody who joins. Or when everyone reaches, if we reach 1,000 followers or 5,000 followers or 10, whatever you're close to and you want to get people incentivized up to the next level, maybe you'll release some amazing piece of content, or everybody will get something that's great. A lot of people like doing like drives when there's a match donor involved. And that's usually a small amount. Hey, a donor said, we'll donate, somebody who's already going to donate $1,000 might like it to go a little further than just a straight donation and say, we want to encourage more people to get involved with us. Can we use your investment as an incentive to others to join our cause or to like our page? That goes very much into the next point, which is contests. Photo contests work really great. So caption contests are fun. People uploading their own contests. If you look now, I think this promotion is still going on. The Trust for Public Land is doing, if you look on their Facebook page, they were doing, I'm not sure if it's ended now, I think what they call it, like a Go Wild or something like that. They're asking people to talk about how they're outside in nature, and upload the pic of them outside doing something, and then the prize is a GoPro camera, one of those ones that you stick on top of your head and do crazy things with. So these are just all different types of methods to get people in the door. A lot of them are Facebook-based. We talk a little bit about Twitter, too. Just doing your basic connecting your email list with any of these networks is usually a good idea. They will tell you who you already know is on the network. Instagram does that. Google+ will do that. Pinterest will do that. They will be constantly feed. If you connect an email address with them, they will tell you, again, who that low-lying fruit is. Any questions? Make sure you put it in the chat box. I like to hear them and help folks out. This is just that we're going to run through a couple of examples of what I just talked about. So base level, absolute base level. In a very prominent place in your website, put your social profiles there. So here is just follow us. And another way of doing this is actually, I'm not sure if any of you use sharing buttons on your website. They're often associated with blogs, but things like, and I'm adding this, share this and add this, they are little free services that put buttons on your website so people can share that particular blog post or web page. And that's another way of getting people to promote your content, promote your presence on social. So try one of those. I'm interested in seeing if anyone has any of those. Here are just a whole different types of samples of ways that organizations in your space have attracted followers. Just simple apps. Here on the top left, you'll see they use a larger network to promote a smaller network. So you'll see Association of State Wetland Managers is saying, hey, we have a Pinterest page, follow us over there. And that people use Facebook to promote their Twitter. They use Twitter to promote their Instagram. And Instagram will connect with Twitter and Facebook so that you could cross-promote your presence and your content on different networks. Here's the top right, Freshwater Network is inviting people to sign up for their email list. Going to the Cahaba River Society, this is to encourage you to share something and you get a free ticket to a party or an event that they're doing. So something that they might desire to do. The Science Foundation near me did a make sure you like this page to get free tickets to the gala. Or to enter to win to get free tickets to the gala. So everybody was waiting to see who got those tickets, and it drove a whole bunch of likes right before the gala. And here is from on bottom left at around 7 o'clock, Cumberland River Compact. Be sure to tell your friends that today is your last chance to like us on Facebook to win a free rain garden. So again, an incentive to attract followers. What have you guys used? Anything that you guys want to chime in with and share any successes or share a frustration that something didn't work? I think those are all helpful. So if you have any of those to share, put it in the chat box and we'll be sure to share it with each other. Now we're moving up that pyramid to listening and responding. I have a great example to share with from an organization here, and it's from the 24th Street Theater, which is a theater in Los Angeles. They use Twitter, speaking of using a particular channel for a particular purpose, as a concierge service. So when people tweet them, is there still parking available? Is there still tickets left? Can I bring my children to this show? What time is the show? If I arrive 10 minutes late, can I still get in the theater? And they have somebody manning that Twitter profile, being that concierge service, being that helpful type of a presence. So they decided to use that as a way to do customer service for their fans and the people who come to their shows. And they're responsive. So that wouldn't work unless they established it as a goal and put somebody on that Twitter feed right before those shows to make sure that there is a great response and you're listening to what people say. So there's lots of different ways you can think about listening and responding. Here are just some other specific examples of photographs that were shared on the page. I like the one on the bottom right, and it was a screen capture a while ago where someone did a field trip to an education center and posted a picture of it and said, I had a great time. So instead of just leaving it at that, and I do this when people take my webinars, and they write on Twitter, hey, I liked the webinar, and then I'll ask as a follow-up question, just like Great Lakes Education Program did here, well, what did you like best? What was your key piece of learning from this experience? So these are all opportunities to do that listening and responding. Remember, we're working our way up that pyramid. Just a couple other examples of listening and responding at events is good when you have people tweeting or writing about your event, taking a picture of it, that you're retweeting it, resharing it. You're sort of creating an echo of that support online. And this works with campaigns as well, fundraising campaigns, advocacy campaigns. Hey, thanks so-and-so for standing up and speaking out for XYZ campaign, for example. This is a goal. It's not an absolute 100% requirement, but trying to be encouraging engagement and with each communication. So there is a great tool called, I'm going to give you another tool, and that is mostly free. It's a great called Post Planner. And Post Planner is great at, if you're sort of dead in the water and you're staring at that blank screen for Facebook and you don't know what to write. Post Planner helps you with prompts of what to write. So it shows you how to be engaging. And the more you feed into it, like other liked pages, it will feed you content and engagement ideas that will help you, like asking questions, like sharing stories, or taking advantage of particular days of the year. So you know when maybe National Volunteer Recognition Week is, or Earth Day, or Mother's Day, things that might be relevant to your work. And but just do try in each of your engagements to be encouraging some level of interaction. Just to give you a heads up on Facebook, that there, and I doubt any of you would be caught with this, but it used to be you can encourage people to, hey, like this and share it with friends. And Facebook has announced that they're trying to crack down on that, though a small page may be able to go under the radar and not feel the wrath of Facebook, but a large page would. They want you to just post content that is naturally going to increase engagement and be liked on Facebook. And I say that knowing it's not easy. I, for one, just as a consultant who manages multiple pages, I have found it easier for me to grow a following on Twitter than it is on Facebook at this point, because I feel like it's just more, the rules are known on Twitter. There's no gaming, an algorithm, et cetera. Facebook is a little bit more challenging to manage as a page, so I spend a lot of time on it as a person. So that's something you actually might want to think about, is beyond your page, your Facebook page, encouraging people on your staff to repost your stuff, because then it becomes the social part of social media. That's why people are there. So when people of authority or people that are influencers in their networks post something, so that's why that nonprofit asked me to post something on their behalf, so if they know more people will probably see it when I post it as an influencer and a supporter than when they post it on their page. So that's a little Facebook trick. These are just different examples of encouraging engagement and interaction. Thanking volunteers is a fantastic thing to do on social media. People look for that, particularly when you had a big event, and you could have volunteers of the month. Folks like to use social media to do that. Here, even the Huron River Watershed Council just gave people a notice, hey, our website is down, please bear with us. And they made it human, while our munchkins work to resolve. There is a question that came in from Cece again, and she writes, I tend to post things on Facebook, go on to other things, and don't go back until much later, but then I feel as if it's an opportunity to respond. Is it too late? Does it have to have a timely response? If somebody asks you a question, they generally expect an answer pretty quickly. That's what their expectation is. If you post something on your social network, usually you will get a notification, and you can get even an email that somebody has responded to it in some way, whether they've liked it, commented on it, or shared it. So that should be a setting that you can tweak in various networks, on Twitter and Facebook in particular. On Instagram, on your mobile phone, you should be able to get that. If you're using Google+, you should be able to get that. All of them have some kind of notification. So you should know if there's a response pretty quickly and respond to that. Some networks just require something more timely than others, and it depends on what the nature of the beast is. So a lot of people take to Twitter to complain publicly about something. That's a place that you don't want to let something open and fester. It is a place where you want to respond more quickly. So just have some way of reading those notifications. You don't have to stay on the network to just watch the clock tick there and see if anything happens, but get notifications for when something does happen that you have to respond to. Just more examples of encouraging interaction. Fun photographs tend to be shared more. Look at the one from the Grand River Future Vision on the right, and this was shared 538 times. So obviously this is something that worked for them. I'd say there's using that Aspire tool, that ActionSprout Inspire tool, will help you gauge good content that you can reuse. You could reuse your own content. So maybe it's a tweet that went crazy, and maybe it's a tweet to your most popular blog post of all time, or something that's rising the charts for you. Well, take it out and show it again, because not 100% of the people saw it before, and that's okay if you do a little repetition. It's okay. You're not going to use the same tweet over and over again every 5 minutes, but if you put some space in between, it's perfectly okay to reuse content. Just some more examples here of encouraging interaction from various different water organizations, and so you can check these out. Monitoring season is approaching. Images do better. You see the response rate, and these also happen to be Facebook engagement. The picture from Anacostia Watershed Society looks kind of wacky. You see that got 20 likes and 15 comments. So have fun, and definitely be visual in almost any of these networks. Even Twitter, things with links and images in them do really well on Twitter. So don't shy from Twitter just because it's 140 characters. And then let's close back in. If that one thing I want you to do when you leave today is the goals, making sure that you're actually tying it to real world stuff you want people to do. So whether that is come to a lunch, or register for a class, or participate in something. Maybe it's sign a petition, or it's come to a meeting to voice your concern over a particular development or plan. So this is the top of that pyramid, that taking action, being part of something bigger and better and in real life. Again, you're not existing on Facebook. You're not only existing on Twitter. Excuse me. You are using those tools to advance your goals. Here's just a couple of examples of taking more action. Here's look at over on the right on the Cumberland River impact, which is the tweet-a-thon. So this is something that you can Google and find other examples from. I know another organization that did this is Feeding America during the fall. They had a tweet-a-thon for fundraising. That's really about the only way that fundraising works on Twitter. If you have some kind of sponsor, you have some kind of time-based thing. Other than that, it's pretty hard to do fundraising on Twitter. Alabama Rivers Alliance at 6:30 here, they're talking about an event that they want people to sign up for. And there they have get tickets. So it's not just a liking an event or posting, but it's actually making a more commitment, jumping to a higher level of engagement by buying a ticket or RSVPing. Again, a few more examples of taking action, but we are at 2:25, so I know I wanted to leave some more time for questions. So as I wrap up the last few slides, be sure, I want you to do two things. First is, what are your key takeaways? And the second is any questions that you have. So I've got a few more slides to go through, and then I will be available for your questions should you have them. And I love to hear your key takeaways. So what did you learn today? When you hang up the phone, what are you going to do next? What's the thing that you're going to do or that stuck with you, resonated with you? So same way of asking that same question, what are you going to bring back? Think about this pyramid. How can you build value at every stage of this pyramid, from attracting followers to listening and responding to interacting to taking those actions? Here's a good tool for you to use, and I'm wondering if anybody does this, having a plan for your content. So a content calendar, or it's often called an editorial calendar as well. So using something like this, it could be a Google Calendar, it could be something on paper. However it is that you have some kind of vision for what your week, what your month minimally is going to be like. And you guys have each other for content. Like that Atlanta Zoo example, where they network with other aquariums and zoos to talk about best practices and how to share content. You guys have each other for inspirational stories of success, for challenges, for ideas. So use that together. Here is I don't know if you have one of these, Rick, but a social media group, a Facebook group, just to discuss this. So here is different people who are involved in Idealware talking about social media policy workbook. I have another organization, Riverkeeper has a social media group, a Facebook group just for the volunteers for their annual music event fundraiser. So work together. You guys can amplify your own awesome content. So we have, we're at 2:28, and we have reached the end. But I reached the end, so it's time for those questions and that feedback, and so I am heading on over to the chat box to see what you guys are talking about and what your response is. Let's see, move up a little bit. Awesome, I love responses. Okay, so Joanne, more about the tools and how they can link together. So your key takeaway is you'll develop a plan for next outreach project. That's great. So I always encourage people, just like the bike, start small and build out. Everything I talked about now doesn't have to be done the minute you hang up the phone. This may take you a year or two to get in the groove, and that's okay. Nothing else in your organization was plopped out in your lap and an instant success the minute it was. So the same thing is with social media. But now I feel like hopefully you have a good solid foundation to do that. Maria, going to make a plan for managing multiple social media sites and devote a specific amount of time per week to the site maintenance. That's awesome. CC, practice is your key takeaway, and be more consistent, and also get a new computer. That's a good move. Just to add to that, mobile phones. Guys, mobile phones, so you can take those pictures, you can respond on the go, you can post content and reshare things on the go. So really no good communicator nowadays can function without a decent phone to be doing these types of things. So Barb writes, I must become active with social media. Will share your tools with my active social media colleagues. Rick writes, Anjali, we need more of a strategy and a plan because of limited time and staff, and being first a person on social media. And something new, and we need to think more about from the way we do it now. So I'm so glad to hear those reactions. It sounds like you really it really sunk in. And I see Rick is typing, maybe that's Anjali. That brings us to the end of 2:30, so if there's any other questions that you have, feel free to ask them now. Hopefully you've got enough to sink your teeth into and to move forward with some purpose. and strategy. One thing I do want to definitely recommend in Idealware, they have a social media policy workbook. So go on their website and search for that, and eventually you're going to need that, especially if you have volunteers working with your organization and helping out with social media. Rick, right, and more importantly, I realized how much we need a young person to do this more consistently. I have one more thing to say to that, and then I'll let, I think it's either Rick or Ryan will wrap up. So it's not always about handing off to an intern or the youngest person who gets social media, because you understand communications policy better. So it has to be some kind of blending. So it's not just about the tool. It's about how to use that tool to advance your goals. So not being snarky or understanding how you respond to someone who's complaining. That a lot of times is a more mature skill set, and that's something that has to be taught and learned over time. So I wouldn't just hand the keys over to an intern just because they understand how to use Instagram. Making sure that they understand your strategy, your policy, and your approach to communicating and engaging with supporters and volunteers and donors. All right, so that brings me to the end of my talking. I'm wondering if Rick is with us or Ryan is with us, who want to wrap up.
Let me jump in instead. I'm not sure if Rick is with us. This is Deanna Toledo. I joined just a little bit late, which is why Ryan started it in front of me and Rick. So Deanna from River Network. Just want to thank you, Carrie and Tyler, so much for this. We will be posting the recording for this webinar. I am wondering if I'll look over the chat boxes to compile all those resources that you shared, but I may come back to you for some URLs in case I'm not finding them.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share. I have tools coming out my ears, so I'm always happy to share those, and sometimes they do make life a little bit easier for you.
Great. Well, thanks again. I just added another slide here at the end to let folks know of the next webinar we've got coming up is after River Rally. EPA will be presenting on their new urban water SMAPper. So you know where to register for that. It's the same URL, and we'll be putting up more information about it on Basecamp. But thanks, everybody, for taking the time to join, and thanks to you ladies at Idealware. Excellent training. I appreciate it.
Great. Have a good day, and good luck, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon, everybody.